Hey friends, this is Marilyn from tarotclarity.com. I apologize for not having been around for a little while, and I hope I think this video will make up for my absence. I watched my grandbaby, and I also concurrently have severe back pain. And when I'm not watching him, I'm basically flat on my back, and it even hurts too much to sit in the chair, So I've had to limit my sitting time. However, I could not resist doing this video. This is the next video in the series that I began, A to Z Tarot series, showing my publications, right, for my tarot decks. And I have a few for B, beginning with Marco Benedetti. Now, I say you're in a treat, and I think you'll forgive me for my long absence because I think I'm about to show you the best decks that I have in my collection. Now, I started collecting decks from Marco a few years ago when I noticed he was doing recreation decks, and he was, I think he has not told this to me, but it's just from my own impression and how I've put it together in my own mind. I think he was playing with the tarot possibility by doing like decks from something like Gamecrafters or Make Playing Cards. And so I saw, when I was looking for historic tarot decks, I began to notice decks by Marco. Yeah, this one says Gamecrafter. That were recreation decks that he did. And at the time, the only Rosenwald that was available was the Tarot Sheet Revival deck, which I have since purchased. But at the time, I couldn't afford it. I wasn't able to afford that. So I could afford this one as it was made over in Gamecrafters. So I bought it. And so then I became aware of Marco as a creator of historic decks. And I bought a few other decks in this capacity. I also bought the Charles VI, which, if it's the only one of his two Charles VI decks that you can get it. Because the Charles VI deck, I think, in my opinion, and who am I, so is, and I think this one was made by Make Playing Cards. So, and I'm not sure even if he's still providing this over at Make Playing Cards, but you can ask him, or you can look over at Make Playing Cards and look up his name or something like that. But I wanted an authentic copy of the Charles VI deck, or I wanted as many recreations as I could get. And Marco not only recreated the deck, but he offers many options. And for the cards that are missing, because there are many cards that are missing from the Charles VI deck, what he did was he only used cards to supplement the missing cards that were created in that same period of time and in that same region. So although not every card in the Charles VI deck, for example, this one is the case in point, is not authentic to the original deck, neither was this. You get a deck that's cohesive, this one was. You get a deck that was cohesive, same. And you just get a great deck that's cohesive to the period of time, And even the cards that were supplemented, they're not decks that were recreated by a modern day artist. They're cards that were created in that same period of time and in that same region. So it's got a very authentic feel. And because there are so many cards from so many different sources, I say that if you only have one tarot deck, if you only have one historic tarot deck from the 1400s, Marco's Charles VI tarot deck is probably the one to get. I really love this deck. Now, as I mentioned, you may not be able to still get it in the Make Playing Cards version, but he's got a knockout example of it here. Now, you know, with Margot's decks, they're expensive decks, but you get what you pay for, truly. And in this case, you get quality for sure. You get quality. His decks are beautiful. At any rate, so I got the Rosenwald that way, and I got the Charles VI that way, and I had also wanted an authentic Oswald Worth, because the only other one I had, I think, was either put out by US Games or Los Scarabeo, but it wasn't legit, you know. And I found on Marco's Make Playing Cards site that he offered a genuine Oswald Worth deck. So, and he offered it in 3, right? We have, because so did Oswald Worth. Oswald Worth created 3. So here's one. I'll show it to you in a second. This is the one I prefer to use. Okay, and then Oswald Worth created a second one that had like an Art Deco or an Art Nouveau kind of borders on it. A little more fancy, but I prefer the simpler one personally. But a lot of people really like this one. And then Worth also provided just the line drawings, or that's not that he provided, but he created simple line drawings. So Marco got his hands on all 3 copies, and he provided those. So after I got these 3 decks from Marco, I was kind of hooked on him. You know, he was on my radar after I got these 3 decks because I was very satisfied with them. Then I saw that he had his own personal homage to the Visconti decks, and so I bought that too. Now this is not in any order. Now he has since created a beautiful one with gold leaf embellishments and stuff like that, but I have not yet purchased that deck. But I'm just randomly showing you these. Oh, I want to show. There we go. I don't have these in order, unfortunately. So I purchased this one as well. So then I saw that Marco was beginning to go beyond the Make Playing Cards and Gamecrafters, you know, because I think he figured, I can do this, or I have a feel for this, or I like to do this. And so he began to do other tarot decks with quality paper. And so he left the world of Make Playing Cards, Gamecrafters, to move on to bigger and better methods. So let me put these back in their proper boxes, and then I'll come right back. So I think this is the better way to show, because there's so many. So then once I saw that Marco was creating other decks, you know, besides those on Make Playing Cards, I started to check them out. And I'm not sure in what particular order I purchased these, but for example, the Fina della Torre. Now, I already had a Fina della Torre published by another publishing house, but I really wanted to see what Marco had, you know, how you know, and I loved it. And it's a smaller size than the one that I had purchased from someone else, which was from, I think, the National Museum, or I think it was like the Italian National Museum or something like that of tarot. So, which is like, a very large deck, but this was more petite in size, and I loved the deck, so I was attracted to a smaller size. So I got this, and Marco, then I saw that he had a Rosenwald, which was a nicer quality than the Rosenwald that I had bought from the Make Playing Cards or whatever it was, and so I purchased this one. And so from that point on, I pretty much was hooked on whatever Marco was doing. I really wanted to keep my eye on him. I purchased the Florentine Macchiati. And it seems as though with every deck I purchased, his cardstock got better and better. I got number 2. Until now, most recently, I think Marco's cardstock is second to none. So not only has Marco been prolific in creating decks, he's also clearly good at it. And, you know, it seems as though he's progressively improved in paper quality, and all, you know, shuffleability. You know, hold on a second. I want to put some of these cards away because it makes me nervous to have these beautiful cards just randomly open on my tarot table. I have 3 that are in the book format, and this is probably my, you know, one of my most cherished decks ever. And I have number 1. I'm so lucky. And this is the Tarot of Metalli, where Marco created the missing cards of the Terracino, which would have been cards numbers 2 through 5. And I campaigned heavily to get my hands on a Metalli deck that would have all those missing cards. And Marco listened and delivered. And this is a very, very, very special deck. I love this deck. And you'll notice that this is a deck that was done in the old-fashioned way, where the back was folded over to the front, as they would have in the old days. And it protects the edges so that when you shuffle, you're not damaging the cards. So Marco offers a variety of paper. And I think you have options when you want to order a deck. Here's another in the book format, the Payen from 1743, which I believe is the oldest TDM1 in existence, I think. I could be wrong, but I think so. From 1743, it's beautiful. And then I have another in the book format, which is the Carte Fine al Mondo. I love this deck. And again, like the Dalla Torre, it's a manageable size. Then, let me put these away proper. Well, before I put this one away, I want you to notice that and I'm not joking, increasingly, as I bought more decks, the paper cardstock just improved every time. So it seems as though Marco really caught on to the industry, you know, the tarot making industry. I mean, I truly believe that he's a natural when it comes to, he must be a reincarnated card maker because he's that good at it. And I've found myself, even if I've already had like 2 copies of the Atea, right? But once I learned that Marco had a copy of the Atea, I had to buy it. You know, I had to have Marco's copy. This came from another deck that I just use as my cheat sheet. But listen to this. And of all the Ateyas that I have, this one's my favorite by a long shot. So Marco's Ateya is my preferred Ateya. I've done videos on all of these decks. Oops, I just put this in the wrong box, the wrong end. I've done videos on all of Marco's decks individually. So if you want to see my playlist for Marco Benedetti, you'll find all of his decks in the playlist individually. Here we have a Noble. But everything about Marco's decks are just quality. The way they're presented, the cardstock, the color. Check out this beautiful Madini. And I think I should say that Marco has just created a madrone. Listen to this. Listen to this. Has just created a Visconti madrone deck, and I'm on board with it. You know, I know it's going to be an exceptional deck. It will be arriving within a week or two. As I mentioned many times, when Marco sends a deck, it comes post-haste. He'll tell me, he'll send me a message. He'll say, Marilyn, I just sent your deck. And within 3 to 4 days, never more than 4 days, I've got my deck. And that's how amazing Marco is. And I don't know if you want to see every single one, but I'm going to show them. This is Marco's personal Visconti. And again, like the Charles VI, he offers many, many additional cards. Because, as I've mentioned, some of the cards were missing. In, you know, these old decks, you know, there's many cards that are missing. And so these decks are a conglomerate of other Visconti decks. I believe the Visconti Sforza family in total created 15 decks for their family, which was handed down from the ages. And when card makers recreate one of their decks, for the cards that are missing, they'll either take one of the virtue cards and use that for, say, something like the High Priestess, or the female Pope, rather. And they may take a card that is from one of the other Visconti Sforza decks that is missing in whatever particular one that's being created, and they'll provide that. I hope I made sense there. Now, when the deck says personal Visconti, it means that Marco created the deck and used cards from various Visconti Sforza decks that he preferred. And then, as I mentioned, he always offers additional cards to choose and pick from. And I believe that the Madrone, which is coming out in just a week or so, next week, this coming week, I think, is the same, whereby it's another personal deck by Marco. So it will have the cards from the Madrone deck plus an assortment of additional cards that you can pick and choose which cards you want from the other various Visconti Sforza cards that had been created. I've already touched on the Charles VI being exceptional. Look at these. Look at these. They're just gorgeous. I mean, even the pip cards are delicious. And last but not least, and I didn't show these in last for any reason, we have the Nicolas Roulichon. The Jacques Vieilleville, which is just outstanding. And you can expect facsimile quality, right? They're not, with his finer decks, that you can definitely expect facsimile quality. And then the Niccolo Novaro, I love this deck. And so many people have commented on my videos how much they love this deck. Because it's so juicy. Listen to that, right? Now, you know when the cards are not in order, it's because I use them a lot. I reach for them. When decks are in order, I could have just put them in order just for the sake of a video, that I was about to do. But I usually don't put cards in order unless I'm about to do a video. So if I randomly pick up a deck and it's not in order, it's an indication that I use it a lot, So if Marco Benedetti is not on your radar yet, I think he should be because his decks are exceptional. Let me flip the camera. He's got an innate sensibility of what makes a tarot deck great. And he's prolific, so he has the means to do it. And in the few short years that I've been purchasing, the basic tarot cards from him, he's progressed in leaps and bounds to not only just have an eye for what are good decks to recreate, but he just understands how to make an exceptional tarot deck. The paper quality, and I think you always have options for what kind you would like. I can't say enough about Marco's decks. I just love Marco's decks. And as I said, I'm pretty sure he's my favorite deck publisher. And as I said, in addition to these that I've shown, I'm receiving one. I'm looking forward to the Madrone, which is arriving probably sometime next week. Probably by this time next weekend, I'll definitely have it. And I can't wait. So keep your eye open for the Madrone deck. Marco's personal Madrone deck. And you can find Marco. He doesn't have a website per se. Look him up on Facebook, okay? Marco is listed on Facebook as Marco Cesar or Cesar Benedetti. So it's Marco Cesar Benedetti on Facebook. And there you will see all of his decks and you can communicate with him. He's very reliable communicator. And all his fees are included. That's where you go. And I'll put his name down below, but sometimes people change their links, so I don't want to put his Facebook link in case it changes. But just remember, when you look up Marco, it's Marco Cesar Benedetti. Until next time, friends, peace, stay well, be kind, and check out Marco's decks.